Hi, I'm Delphine. Today I'll be showing you two whales reacting to new and recent entanglements. First, I'd like to acknowledge my co-authors who contributed to the documentation of these observations. These took place during field research efforts with the New England Aquarium, the Canadian Whale Institute, Dalhousie University, and the University of New Brunswick aboard the Jean-Denis Martin with Captain Martin Noël. We used vessel and drone-based photographs and video, as well as acoustic recordings to document these events. 86% of the right whale population has been documented with entanglement scars. These events can be extremely energetically demanding, especially considering they can happen multiple times throughout a whale's life. Although today I'm only showing you two cases, other groups have documented displays of similar behaviors in early stage entanglements. On July 13th of this year, at 16:30, Captain Stéphane Ferron reported an entangled whale that was rolling and thrashing violently. The whale was identified as a 5-year-old male, number 4615, and had been photographed by the team on the Jean-Denis Martin 4 hours earlier in that same location without evidence of any entangling gear. Note in the photos on the right, there were already extensive entanglement scars from prior entanglement events. In fact, there's observations indicating he's been entangled 3 times in the last 4 years. Feel free to pause for more details. By the time we arrived on site at 17:30, there was one rope wrap over the rostrum between the combing callosity and blowholes and through the mouth. The whale had bleeding wounds on the peduncle and the fluke's leading edge, with one wrap around its tailstock and 3 around the peduncle. There was also a rope going from the fluke straight down into depths, implying it was weighted. When we first arrived on scene, there was also a small white buoy trailing 10 body lengths behind the whale. This distance shortened considerably as the event progressed. However, the presence of this trailing buoy allowed for the attachment of a telemetry buoy and tag, which we'll come back to in a bit. Over the 6 hours of observation, there wasn't noticeable change in the head wraps. However, the gear did shift on the whale's body, resulting in fewer wraps around the peduncle. We did observe strange bulging of the muscle on either side of the spine on the whale's back. You may notice it in the following videos. The whale repeatedly thrashed and slashed its tail. We describe a tail thrash when the fluke goes up and down like a lobtail. A tail slash is lateral movement of the fluke under or above water. The whale also strongly arched its back with head lifts. Rolling and underwater exhalation was also observed. In between periods of these violent behaviors, the whale would remain at the surface. Sometimes, the whale would even pump its fluke a few times before doing a big thrash. These drone videos certainly allowed for a different perspective of these entanglements. They taught us a lot about the gear configuration and where things might be weighted down. Adding different sensors to a drone could provide further insights into the physiological impacts the entanglements have on these whales. For example, the drone flown over 4615 also carried a thermal imaging camera. Gino Lonati from the University of New Brunswick hopes to analyze these unique thermal signatures of this whale very soon. Recall the trailing white buoy I mentioned earlier? The team used it to attach the telemetry buoy and tag. Guy tosses the grapple ahead of the white buoy. I'm just speeding up the video here to move things along. The boat was put in reverse to catch the rope heading straight down from the buoy. You can't see the actual rope going to depths in this video here, but the team was able to observe it. Stéphane in the orange is working the tether to make sure that the grapple is well set. Notice that the whale is still thrashing in the background. Once the tether is played out, Guy tosses the telemetry buoy and tag overboard. And there you go. At that point, we had a telemetry and buoy and tag attached. Over time, the trailing line shortened and the telemetry buoy and tag came close to the whale a handful of times and took quite a beating from the thrashing fluke, which you see here in slow motion. We stayed with the whale for 6 hours until after dark, and unfortunately, the tag only transmitted until 4 a.m. the next morning. The whale was observed the next day by Transport Canada aerial team with only one rope through its mouth, no telemetry buoy visible, and has not been seen since. Unfortunately, this wasn't the first time we'd witnessed such an event during these research cruises. On August 20th of 2018 at 17:49, the team aboard the Jean-Denis Martin came across a 9-year-old male, number 3960, entangled in the Gulf St. Lawrence. The whale had been seen 14 days earlier without any gear. The behavior and condition of the whale, including the bloody tailstock, led the team to speculate that it was likely a recent entanglement. The whale had rope wrapped across its rostrum, over the blowholes, and had several baleen plates bent and sticking out of its mouth. Similar to 4615, this animal's behavior was very violent, including tail thrashes, tail slashes, which we can see here in slow motion, and spiral dives. Unfortunately, we don't have a video of a spiral dive. However, it looks very similar to what you're about to see here. The fluke is vertically out of the water, but it twists on itself with incredible speed. No one on the team had ever seen this behavior before. Moments after the act of thrashing, the whale would sink and disappear for 15 minutes at a time. The whale also exhibited a lot of rolling behaviors. During the next hour and a half, the gear shifted on the whale's body. Most of the lines and buoys moved over the head, with lines leading to the depths from the whale's right side. The lack of a visible trailing line and the whale's active state prevented any attempts of attaching a telemetry buoy or approaches by disentanglement efforts. After 2 hours, the whale swam away from us at 8 knots, appearing gear-free. He was sighted on December 31st of 2018, confirming his gear-free status. The wounds on his tail stalk were extensive and coded as severe. However, the damaged baleen plates were no longer sticking out of his mouth. An area of raw tissue was still visible in July of 2019, despite observed overall healing of the injuries. A sonobuoy was also deployed to record any sounds produced by the whale during its struggle. This is a preliminary sample of what we heard. The following is a spectrogram, which is a visual representation of sound in the frequency and time domain. And it's just going to show 4 clips from the sonobuoy near the entangled whale. The audio is amplified and played at 4 times the normal speed, and that was done to make the calls more audible. Further acoustic documentation of these events may help identify distress calls for the monitoring of acute entanglements in the future. In conclusion, these observations show right whale behaviors presumably in early stages of an entanglement, giving us further insights into the stress and energetic costs in addition to the physical wounds these animals face during entanglements. They reveal that whales shift between periods of violent and calm behaviors quickly and frequently. Approaches by whale rescue teams should always be considered with extreme caution. It's important to continue to document these events whenever possible. and I'd like to underscore the crucial role that the video cameras, whether handheld or drone-mounted, played in capturing these behaviors and events. With that, I'd like to thank all those who continue to make these research efforts possible. Thank you very much.